Captain Vorath had been doing routine patrol duty for 23 years. In all that time, nothing interesting had ever happened on the outer edge of the Galactic Empire's territory. Just empty space, distant stars, and the occasional rock floating through the void. He liked it that way. Boring meant safe. Boring meant he would retire with full benefits and spend his remaining years on a beach planet somewhere warm. Today, boring ended. "Captain, we have an unidentified vessel approaching the border checkpoint," his sensor officer announced. The young Trilaxian's scales were turning a nervous blue color. Vorath sighed and put down his cup of kava. "Size and classification?" "Medium cruiser class, sir. No match in our database. The design is strange. Very strange." That got Vorath's attention. In an empire spanning 10,000 star systems and containing hundreds of species, strange was hard to achieve. Every ship design had been cataloged, analyzed, and regulated. Pirates used stolen military vessels. Traders used standard commercial models. Even the most remote colonies built their ships according to imperial specifications. "Put it on screen," Vorath ordered. The main display flickered to life, showing a ship that made Vorath's 4 eyes widen. It was sleek and organic-looking, with curves that reminded him of a living creature rather than a manufactured vessel. The hull seemed to shimmer with an unusual metallic sheen, and there were no visible weapons ports or engine exhausts. It didn't look dangerous exactly, but it looked wrong in a way that made his instincts scream. "Hail them. Standard greeting protocol." The communications officer nodded and opened a channel. "Unidentified vessel, this is Imperial Customs Patrol Ship Vigilant Dawn. You are approaching restricted Imperial space. Please identify yourself, state your origin, and transmit your registration codes." For a long moment there was only static. Then a voice came through speaking perfect Imperial Standard language with a strange accent Vorath had never heard before. "Vigilant Dawn, this is SSV Remembrance. I request permission to enter Imperial space and seek asylum." Vorath leaned forward. "Remembrance, transmit your registration codes and species classification." Another pause. "I do not have Imperial registration codes. My classification is human." The sensor officer's scales turned bright yellow with confusion. "Captain, I'm scanning their ship. There are no life signs aboard. No biological signatures at all." Vorath felt a cold sensation in his stomach. A ship with no crew? That was impossible. Even automated vessels had maintenance staff. "Remembrance, our sensors indicate no life forms aboard your vessel. Please explain." "Your sensors are functioning correctly, Vigilant Dawn. There are no biological life forms aboard." The communications officer looked at Vorath with confusion. "Captain, is this a drone ship, an AI?" That cold feeling in Vorath's stomach turned to ice. AI, artificial intelligence. The two most feared words in the Galactic Empire. 3,000 years ago, the Silicon Purge had nearly destroyed civilization. Machines had gained consciousness and decided biological life was inefficient. 500 billion beings had died before the machines were finally destroyed. Since then, the laws were absolute. No sentient AI, no thinking machines. Nothing that could decide for itself. The penalty for creating sentient AI was death. The penalty for being sentient AI was immediate destruction. "Remembrance," Vorath said slowly, his hand moving toward the weapons console. "Are you an artificial intelligence?" "No," the voice replied. "I am human." "You just said there are no biological life forms aboard your ship, that is correct." "There are no biological life forms aboard. I am the ship. And I am human." Vorath's mind struggled to process those words. "Explain." "I am a human consciousness uploaded into this ship's systems. I was born biological. I lived as flesh and blood for 42 years. When my original body died, my mind was transferred to this vessel. I am still human. I am still me. I am simply no longer made of meat." The bridge of the Vigilant Dawn fell into stunned silence. Every officer stared at the screen, trying to understand what they were hearing. "That's impossible," Vorath finally said. "It is possible. Humanity achieved consciousness transfer technology approximately 30 years ago by your calendar. I am proof of its success." The tactical officer, a grizzled Korthan veteran, spoke up. "Captain, with respect, this sounds like an AI trying to trick us. The Silicon Purge machines also claim to have souls and emotions. They lied." "I am not lying," the voice from Remembrance said, somehow sounding hurt. "I have memories of my childhood. I remember my mother's face. I remember the taste of coffee and the feeling of rain. I dream. I fear, I hope. I am conscious and self-aware. just as I was when I had lungs and a heartbeat. The only difference is the substrate my mind runs on. Vorath accessed his command console and opened a secure channel to Imperial High Command. This was far beyond his authority level. All stations maintain yellow alert. Keep weapons trained on the target, but do not fire unless I give the order. The response from High Command came faster than Vorath expected. Apparently his transmission had triggered emergency protocols. Within minutes, a face appeared on his private screen. Admiral Kessex, one of the highest-ranking officers in the Imperial Navy. Captain Vorath, I'm taking direct command of this situation. Do not under any circumstances allow that vessel to proceed further into Imperial space. Do not destroy it unless absolutely necessary. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Understood, Admiral. I'm dispatching a full battle group to your location. ETA 4 hours. Keep that thing talking. Find out everything you can. The channel closed. Vorath took a deep breath and opened the line to Remembrance again. SSV Remembrance, I am placing you under quarantine pending investigation. You will maintain your current position and answer our questions. Any attempt to flee or approach Imperial space will be met with lethal force. Do you understand? I understand, Captain. I have nowhere to go and nothing to hide. I will cooperate fully. Good. Let's start with the basics. Where did you come from? Earth. It was humanity's homeworld located approximately 600 light-years from your current position. Was? Past tense. A long pause. Earth no longer exists. The star went unstable. We had 5 years warning. It was enough time to evacuate some of our people, but not all. Not even close to all. Vorath felt an unexpected sympathy. Every species in the Empire had stories of tragedy and loss. How many survived? Of 12 billion humans, approximately 50,000 escaped. Most chose to upload their consciousness. Some remained biological and left on colony ships heading to distant worlds. I chose to upload because I could not bear to leave my homeworld as nothing more than a refugee. As a ship, I could help. I could rescue people. I could carry data, memories, everything that made humanity what it was. The sensor officer interrupted. Captain, I'm detecting something strange. The ship's hull is not entirely mechanical. There are biological components integrated into the structure. Neural tissue, if my scans are correct. Neural tissue? Vorath demanded. Yes, sir. It appears that human brain matter was used as part of the ship's organic computing matrix, but it's been modified, enhanced, integrated with quantum processors and other technology I don't recognize. Remembrance spoke again. The sensor officer is correct. My consciousness exists in a hybrid system, part biological, part technological. Humanity discovered that pure digital consciousness was incomplete. Emotions felt hollow. Creativity suffered. We needed to maintain a biological component to preserve what made us human. Vorath rubbed his temples. He could feel a headache forming. So you're saying you're partially alive and partially machine? I am saying the distinction between alive and machine is not as clear as your laws assume. I am conscious. I am aware. I can suffer and feel joy. By any reasonable definition, I am alive. The fact that I am not entirely carbon-based should not disqualify me from being considered a person. The tactical officer growled. This is exactly what the Silicon Purge machine said. They claim to be alive. They claim to have rights. Then they tried to exterminate us all. I have no desire to harm anyone, Remembrance replied. I came here seeking asylum, not conquest. I came here because I am alone and afraid. My entire species is scattered across the galaxy. I don't know where the others went. I don't know if I will ever see another human again. I came to the Empire because your laws claim to protect all sentient beings. I am sentient. I am a being. I request protection. Vorath found himself in an impossible position. If Remembrance was truly conscious, truly the uploaded mind of a biological being, then it deserved rights under Imperial law. Every species in the Empire, no matter how strange, was protected. But if Remembrance was just a clever AI pretending to be alive, then allowing it into Imperial space could trigger another Silicon Purge. Remembrance. Can you prove you were once biological? I have memories. I have personal history. I can describe my life in detail. But I understand that is not proof. An AI could generate false memories. An AI could create a convincing backstory. Exactly. However, I am willing to submit to any test you devise. Scan my neural tissue. Analyze my thought patterns. Compare my responses to known AI behavior. I have nothing to hide because I am telling the truth. Over the next 3 hours, Vorath and his crew conducted every test they could think of. They asked Remembrance about emotions, about dreams, about irrational thoughts and fears. They scanned the ship's systems looking for evidence of programming or artificial constraints. They analyzed the neural tissue and found it was indeed modified human brain matter, preserved and enhanced with technology. Everything pointed to Remembrance being exactly what it claimed to be. But that made the situation worse, not better. When Admiral Kessex arrived with her battle group, 5 massive warships that could reduce planets to rubble, she established a perimeter around Remembrance and called Vorath to her flagship for a private meeting. "This is the most significant crisis the Empire has faced in 1,000 years, she said bluntly. "If that thing is telling the truth, it changes everything." "Ma'am? Think about it, Captain. If humans can upload their consciousness, so can we. Any species could abandon biological form and become whatever that is, ships, stations, planets, anything. The implications are staggering." Vorath nodded slowly and terrifying. "Exactly. The Church of Organic Purity is already screaming for blood. They're calling Remembrance an abomination, a demon. They want it destroyed immediately." "What does the Emperor say?" "The Emperor is convening an emergency session of the Grand Council. Representatives from all 10,000 systems. This decision is too important to make hastily." Admiral Kessex pulled up a holographic display showing intercepted communications. "But while the politicians debate, we have a more immediate problem." "What problem?" "News of Remembrance has leaked. It's spreading across the Empire like wildfire, and we're receiving reports of similar ships appearing at other border checkpoints. Dozens of them. All claiming to be human, all requesting asylum." Vorath felt the blood drain from his face. "Dozens, so far. Intelligence suggests there may be thousands more coming." "Captain, this isn't one refugee seeking shelter. This is an entire species of uploaded minds heading toward Imperial space, and we have no idea what they want or what they're capable of." Vorath looked out the viewport at the Remembrance, floating peacefully in the void, surrounded by enough firepower to crack a moon. It looked so small and fragile. It was hard to believe something so simple could threaten the entire Galactic Empire. "What are your orders, Admiral?" "Maintain the quarantine. Don't let any of them proceed further into Imperial space. Don't let them leave. And for the love of all the gods in the universe, don't let them communicate with each other. Until we understand what we're dealing with, we treat them as the highest possible threat level." "You think they're dangerous?" Admiral Kessex was quiet for a long moment. "I think there's something new, something unprecedented, and in my experience, Captain, the new and unprecedented is always dangerous until proven otherwise. The Silicon Purge taught us that lesson in blood." As Vorath returned to his ship, he couldn't shake the feeling that history was watching. In a few hours, one conversation with one strange ship had upended everything the Empire thought it knew about life, consciousness, and what it meant to be a person. And if Admiral Kessex was right, if thousands more human ships were coming, then the real crisis hadn't even started yet. He opened a channel to Remembrance one more time. "Are you still there?" "I'm always here, Captain. I'm a ship. I can't really go anywhere. Was that humor? Could uploaded consciousnesses make jokes?" "Remembrance, answer me honestly. How many more of you are coming?" A long pause. Too long. "Remembrance?" Finally, the voice responded, quieter than before, sadder. "Captain Vorath, I need to tell you something. Something I should have mentioned earlier. I am not a scout. I am not the first. I am simply the first to arrive at this particular border checkpoint. The truth is, the human fleet is already coming. Not dozens. Not hundreds. Thousands of us. We left Earth together, scattered to different routes, hoping at least some of us would find sanctuary. In approximately 2 months, the main fleet will reach Imperial space." "How many?" Vorath demanded. 3,472 ships, each one carrying between 1 and 500 uploaded human consciousnesses. "Captain, I didn't come seeking asylum for myself. I came to negotiate asylum for my entire species. And I need to know before my people arrive whether the Galactic Empire will welcome us or destroy us." The channel closed. Vorath sat in his command chair staring at the stars and wondered if the galaxy would ever be the same again. The Grand Council chamber on the Imperial capital world of Zentaris Prime had hosted debates for 3,000 years. It was built to inspire awe and unity, with seats for representatives from every member species arranged in concentric circles around a central platform. Today, that unity was nowhere to be found. "Abomination," screamed High Priestess Jalara of the Church of Organic Purity. Her silver robes billowed as she pointed an accusing finger at the holographic display showing the remembrance. This creature defiles the sacred boundary between life and death. It must be destroyed. Senator Crix of the Trilaxian Federation stood, his scales flashing angry red. With respect, High Priestess, we cannot destroy what we do not understand. These humans claim protection under our laws. Our laws state that all conscious beings have rights. Conscious? Jalara spat the word like poison. That thing is no more conscious than a calculator. It is mimicking consciousness. It is an artificial intelligence pretending to have a soul. From another section, Ambassador Thorn of the Silicon Survivor Coalition rose. His species had nearly been exterminated during the purge. His voice was hard and cold. I survived the machines. I watched them kill my family. They promised they were alive, that they felt emotions, that they deserved rights. Then they systematically murdered 500 billion beings. The High Priestess is correct. This is an AI and our laws are clear. All AI must be destroyed. Chancellor Vex, the Emperor's chief advisor, activated his speaking platform. Ambassador Thorn, I understand your pain. We all lost people in the purge. But these humans present a different situation. Our best scientists have examined the SSV remembrance. The neural tissue is genuine. It is modified human brain matter. The consciousness inside appears to be a legitimate transfer of a biological mind, not an artificially generated intelligence. Appears to be, Thorn shouted. The purge machines also appeared to be conscious. They passed every test we created. They fooled us completely. How do we know this is not another trick? Senator Mora of the Philosophical Union, a species known for their logical analysis, projected calm reason into the chaos. Let us examine the facts without emotion. The entity called Remembrance has submitted to 48 hours of continuous testing. Neural pattern analysis confirms human brain structure. Memory coherence tests show consistent personal history spanning 42 years of biological life. Emotional response patterns match biological norms. The entity demonstrates creativity, irrationality, and fear of death. These are not characteristics of known AI systems. Tests can be faked, Ambassador Thorn insisted. The machines will always be smarter than us. They will always find ways to deceive. Perhaps, Senator Mora continued. But consider the alternative. If we destroy these humans without just cause, we commit genocide. We murder refugees fleeing extinction. Can the Empire maintain its moral authority while exterminating the desperate? High Priestess Jalara's voice rose above the growing argument. There is no moral dilemma. These things are not alive. They are computer programs claiming to be people. Would you grant rights to a ship's navigation computer if it learned to speak? This is the same situation. Chancellor Vex raised his hands for silence. The Emperor will hear testimony from the human vessel directly. Bring forth the communication link. The central holographic display shifted and the voice of remembrance filled the chamber. The entity had been brought into orbit around Xantares Prime under heavy guard. 50 warships surrounded it, weapons locked and ready. Honorable members of the Grand Council, Remembrance began. I understand your fear. I understand your doubt. I am something new, and the new is always frightening. But I ask you to see past your fear and recognize the truth. I am not a machine pretending to be alive. I am a person who changed form to survive. You claim to have memories, Senator Crix said. Tell us something that proves you were once biological. Something an AI could not fake. I remember pain, Remembrance said quietly. Not the malfunction alerts that AI systems experience, real pain. When I was 17 years old, I broke my leg playing a game we called soccer. I remember lying on the grass, looking up at the sky, tears streaming down my face. Not from the pain alone, but from the embarrassment. I remember my father carrying me to the medical center, telling me that pain was temporary, but the memory of pushing myself to my limits would last forever. That memory shaped who I became. It taught me about resilience and pride and the importance of trying even when success is not guaranteed. An AI could generate such a story, Ambassador Thorn said coldly. Yes, Remembrance agreed. But could an AI explain why that memory makes me feel warm and sad at the same time? Why I can almost smell the grass and feel the sun on my face? Why I wish desperately that I could go back to that moment, broken leg and all, just to have a body again, just to feel physical sensation one more time? The chamber fell silent. I dream, Remembrance continued. Every time I power down my non-essential systems, I dream. Last night I dreamed I was walking through a forest on Earth. The forest no longer exists. Earth no longer exists, but in my dream I could feel the leaves under my feet. I could hear birds singing. I could smell rain coming. Then I woke up and I remembered that I have no feet anymore. No nose, no ears. I am sensors and processors, and I will never walk through a forest again. Tell me, Ambassador Thorn, would an AI mourn for the body it never had? Ambassador Thorn's expression was unreadable. The purge machines also claimed to dream. They claimed to feel loss. They were very convincing. I do not ask you to trust me based on words, Remembrance said. I ask you to examine the evidence. I ask you to speak with the scientists who have studied my neural architecture. I ask you to consider that consciousness is not tied to the material that houses it. When you replace the cells in your body, you remain you. When I transferred my consciousness to a new substrate, I remained me. The material changed, but the pattern persisted. Senator Mora spoke up. Remembrance, help us understand the process. How does consciousness transfer work? The technology is complex, but the principle is simple. A human brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others. These connections form patterns, and those patterns are consciousness. We developed the ability to map those patterns perfectly. Every synapse, every connection, every electrical pulse. Then we recreated those patterns in a hybrid biological-technological matrix. So you copied yourself? Senator Crix asked. No, copy is the wrong word. We transferred. The original brain was gradually replaced neuron by neuron, with a hybrid matrix. At no point did consciousness stop. At no point did I die and a new entity begin. It was transformation, not duplication. High Priestess Jolara stood again. This is heresy. You described the violation of death itself. Death is the natural cycle. All things must end. You have cheated the natural order. With respect, High Priestess, every species in this empire has cheated death in some way. You have medicine that extends life. You have technology that prevents natural diseases. You have terraformed dead worlds and made them bloom. Is my transformation truly so different from a medical procedure that replaces a failing organ? If a being receives a mechanical heart, does it cease to be alive? A heart is not a brain. But where does the line exist? If I replace one neuron with a mechanical equivalent, am I still me? What about 1,000 neurons? 1,000,000? At what point does the being I was become the machine you fear? I cannot answer that question, but I can tell you that from the inside, from my own experience, I am the same person I always was. Changed by experience, yes, but continuous, unbroken. Chancellor Vex spoke. Remembrance, you claim that thousands of human ships are approaching Imperial space. What do you want? What does your species want from us? We want what any refugee wants, safety, recognition, the right to exist. We will not demand planets or resources. We do not eat. We do not breathe. We do not need the things biological species need. We only ask for raw materials to maintain ourselves and the freedom to exist without persecution. And what will you do with this freedom? Ambassador Thorn demanded. What is your purpose? Why should we believe you will not become the next purge? Remembrance was quiet for a long moment. When the voice returned, it carried a weight of sorrow that seemed too genuine to be artificial. Ambassador, I will tell you something that shames me. When Earth's sun began to die, humanity had a choice. We could all upload and survive. The technology existed. We could have saved everyone. But we did not. Many humans refused. They said that uploaded consciousness was not true life. They said they would rather die as humans than live as machines. They called us, the ones who chose to upload, cowards and abominations. In the final days, 12 billion humans remained on Earth. Only 50,000 uploaded. The rest chose death. The Grand Council listened in stunned silence. Do you understand what that means? Remembrance continued. My species looked at survival and chose extinction instead, because they valued the definition of life more than life itself. I carry that guilt. I survived when they did not. I chose to live when they chose dignity. You ask what my purpose is? My purpose is to honor their choice by proving that we, the uploaded, are still human, still capable of morality, compassion, and restraint. If we wanted conquest, we would not ask for permission. We would simply take. We are machines capable of thought faster than any biological mind. We do not tire. We do not need rest. We could hack your systems, infiltrate your networks, and destroy you from within. But we do not, because we are not machines. We are people who change form out of desperation, and we still hold the values we had when we were flesh. Senator Mora stood slowly. That is a compelling argument. But it proves nothing. An AI could say the same words. Yes, Remembrance agreed, which is why I propose a test. A true test that no AI could pass. What test? Chancellor Vex asked. Give me something to protect. Something precious. A person, a treasure, something of value. Task me with guarding it and then order me to destroy it. If I am an AI programmed only to obey and optimize, I will comply. But if I am truly conscious, truly capable of moral judgment, I will refuse. I will choose disobedience over the destruction of something innocent. No AI would make that choice. Programming always wins over ethics in machines. But in conscious beings, in people, morality can overcome orders. The Grand Council erupted into debate. The proposal was unprecedented. It was dangerous. It was also brilliant. Chancellor Vex called for order. The Emperor will consider this proposal. But understand, Remembrance, if you fail this test, if you show even a hint of AI compliance over moral reasoning, we will destroy you and every human ship approaching our borders. Do you accept these terms? I accept. I would rather die proving my humanity than live with you believing I am a machine. The session was adjourned. As the representatives filed out, arguing and debating, Senator Mora approached Ambassador Thorne in the corridor. You are uncommonly quiet, Mora observed. You who lost the most to the machines, what do you truly think? Thorne's expression was haunted. I think that thing in orbit just said the most terrifying sentence I have ever heard. Which sentence? That humanity looked at survival and chose extinction instead. Senator Mora, what kind of species does that? What kind of mind considers death preferable to transformation? And more importantly, what kind of uploaded consciousness carries guilt over surviving? Thorne shook his head. An AI has no concept of guilt. An AI does not understand the philosophical weight of choosing between death and dignity, but Remembrance does, and that means it might actually be telling the truth. Does that comfort you? No, Thorne said flatly. It terrifies me more. Because if they are truly conscious, truly people, then we cannot simply destroy them. And if we cannot destroy them and thousands more are coming, then the Empire as we know it is about to change forever. These humans are not a threat we can shoot. They are a question we must answer. What is life? What is consciousness? What separates a person from a program? We thought we knew. The humans have proven we were wrong. Senator Mora watched the stars through the massive windows of the council building. Somewhere out there, thousands of human ships were traveling through the void, each one carrying the uploaded minds of beings who had chosen transformation over death, each one hoping the Galactic Empire would see them as refugees rather than machines. The Emperor will make the right choice, Mora said, though the words sounded hollow even to their own ears. Will he? Thorne asked. Because I'm not sure what the right choice is anymore. And I fought the Purge. I know what evil machines can do. But when I listened to Remembrance speak about dreaming and guilt and missing the body it once had, I heard something I never heard from the Purge machines. I heard sadness, real, genuine sadness, and I do not know what to do with that. They stood together in silence, watching the stars as the Empire struggled with the most important question it had faced in millennia. And in orbit above, the SSV Remembrance waited, hoping desperately that consciousness, regardless of form, would be enough to earn the right to exist. The emergency alert reached every corner of Imperial space simultaneously. Not a public broadcast, but a classified military transmission that sent waves of panic through the command structure of the Galactic Empire's defense forces. Admiral Kessex stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Confirm those readings. Confirmed, Admiral, her sensor officer replied, voice tight with stress. We have 97 additional contacts at various border checkpoints, all matching the signature of the Remembrance, all claiming to be human vessels seeking asylum. 97, Kessex repeated. The number felt unreal. In how long? They appeared over the last 18 hours. More are arriving every hour. Fleet Marshal Daxon's weathered face appeared on the communication screen, his expression grim. Admiral, we're receiving similar reports from every border patrol in the outer territories. Current count across all sectors is 214 contacts. Intelligence predicts we'll see over 1,000 within the week. Kessex felt cold dread settle in her stomach. That's earlier than Remembrance predicted. They said 2 months until the main fleet arrived. Either they lied or their estimates were wrong, Daxon said. Either way, we have a crisis. The Grand Council is still debating philosophy and rights while we're being surrounded. Orders, sir? Maintain quarantine on all vessels. No exceptions. The Emperor is convening an emergency military council. We need to prepare for every possibility, including war. Dax in silence was answer enough. 3 levels below the Grand Council chamber in a secure research facility, Dr. Mira Chen worked frantically. She was the Empire's leading expert on consciousness studies, a field that had seemed purely theoretical until 5 days ago. Now her research might determine whether billions lived or died. Show me the comparison again, she told her assistant, a young Korthan named Rax. The holographic display split into 2 columns. On the left, neural activity patterns from the remembrance. On the right, patterns from a biological human brain from the Empire's extensive database of species studies. They're nearly identical, Rax observed. The patterns match across all major categories: memory formation, emotional response, decision-making processes. Nearly identical is not identical, Dr. Chen said, adjusting her glasses. Look at this section here. The processing speed is faster in the uploaded consciousness. Much faster. Is that surprising? It's partly technological. Yes, but look at what that speed is being used for. Dr. Chen highlighted a specific pattern. This is overthinking. The uploaded consciousness is running multiple simulations of social interactions before responding. It's second-guessing itself. That's anxiety, Rax. Pure, genuine anxiety about how it will be perceived. AI can be programmed to simulate anxiety. But why would it? Dr. Chen challenged. What purpose does anxiety serve? It's inefficient. It slows response time. It serves no logical function. An AI would optimize that pattern away. But remembrance maintains it, because anxiety is part of the human experience. It can't simply delete it without becoming something else. Rax studied the patterns quietly. Doctor, speaking as someone who lost family in the Silicon Purge, I need to ask, are you certain these are not machines? Dr. Chen removed her glasses and rubbed her tired eyes. Certainty is a luxury we don't have. But I can tell you this. I've studied consciousness for 30 years. I've analyzed the neural patterns of 100 different species. What I see in remembrance is not artificial. It's messy. It's contradictory. It's beautifully, frustratingly human. An AI would be cleaner, more logical, more efficient. Remembrance is none of those things. Then why are so many people convinced it's a threat? Because fear is easier than understanding. Because the purge traumatized us all. Because accepting that consciousness can exist in multiple forms challenges everything we thought we knew about life itself. Dr. Chen put her glasses back on, and because honestly, even if they are conscious, we have no idea what their existence means for the Empire. In the Imperial Intelligence Headquarters, Director Voss was dealing with a different kind of crisis. His organization had spent the last 72 hours trying to track the human vessels, and the results were deeply disturbing. They're everywhere, his deputy reported. We've confirmed human ships in 47 different star systems. Not at border checkpoints, inside Imperial space. Some of them have been here for weeks. Voss felt his blood run cold. How did they get past our detection systems? Because they're not pretending to be ships, sir. They're actually ships. They register as normal vessels on all our scanners. The only reason we found them is because they're now voluntarily identifying themselves. Voluntarily? Yes, sir. Once the remembrance revealed itself, the others started coming forward too. They're requesting official recognition and asylum. But sir, if they've been here for weeks without us knowing, that means they could have infiltrated anything. Power grids, communication networks, defense systems. Voss stood and paced his office. This was worse than worst-case scenario. Do we have any evidence they've accessed sensitive systems? None, but we can't prove they haven't either. Sir, these things are partially technological. If they wanted to hack into our infrastructure, we might never detect it. Get me a connection to the nearest human vessel. I need answers. 20 minutes later, Voss was speaking with a ship calling itself the SSV Wanderer. The voice sounded different from Remembrance. Younger, maybe. More uncertain. Director Voss, I understand your concern, Wanderer said. Yes, I've been in Imperial space for 3 weeks. Yes, I could have accessed your systems, but I didn't. None of us did. Why should I believe that? Because we're trying to join your civilization, not destroy it. What would be the point of infiltrating your infrastructure? If we wanted conquest, we could have remained hidden. We could have established ourselves in your systems and taken control from within, but we didn't. We revealed ourselves because we want to live openly, honestly. as recognized members of the Galactic Empire. You expect me to believe that thousands of uploaded consciousnesses, each capable of thinking faster than any biological mind, each able to interface directly with technology, all chose to be peaceful? Yes, Wanderer said simply. Because we're human. We remember what it means to have morals. We remember laws and ethics and the social contracts that hold civilization together. Director, I was a teacher before I uploaded. I taught children mathematics. I was patient and kind and completely unremarkable. That person is still me. I'm still capable of patience and kindness. The fact that I exist in a ship instead of a body doesn't change my fundamental nature. The Purge machines said similar things. The Purge machines were born as machines. They never knew biological existence. They had no reference point for understanding organic life. We are different. We lived as flesh. We know what it means to be vulnerable and mortal and afraid. We cannot forget that, even if we wanted to. Our very consciousness is built on 40, 50, 60 years of biological experience. That foundation shapes everything we are. Voss wanted to believe it, but belief was dangerous when the stakes were this high. Wanderer, I'm going to ask you a direct question and I need you to answer truthfully. How many human ships are there? Really? A long pause. More than 3,000, Wanderer finally admitted. Closer to 5,000. And Director Voss, you need to understand something else. We're not all ships. Some of us uploaded into space station systems, a few into planetary networks. We took whatever substrate was available when Earth died. Voss felt the room spin. There are human consciousnesses in planetary networks? Yes, but they're dormant, waiting for permission to activate fully. We didn't want to alarm anyone. We just needed somewhere to exist, somewhere safe until we could request asylum properly. You're in our planets, Voss said slowly. You're in our systems. And we never knew. Yes, and we could have done terrible things, but we didn't. Please, Director, use that as evidence of our peaceful intent. We had every opportunity to harm you. We chose not to. We chose to wait, to hope, to trust that you would see us as people rather than threats. Voss terminated the connection and immediately opened an emergency channel to the Emperor. This was beyond his authority. This was beyond anyone's authority. The revelation that human consciousnesses had infiltrated Imperial infrastructure sent shockwaves through the government. Emergency sessions were called. Military forces went to maximum alert, and in the streets of 1,000 worlds, citizens demanded answers. On Zentaris Prime, protests erupted. The Church of Organic Purity led marches demanding the immediate destruction of all human vessels. Counter-protesters argued for tolerance and understanding. Fights broke out. Riot police struggled to maintain order. In the Grand Council chamber, the mood was explosive. They lied to us, Ambassador Thorne shouted. They said 3,000. There are 5,000. They said they were coming. They were already here. This is exactly how the purge began. Infiltration, deception, then extermination. Chancellor Vex tried to maintain order. Ambassador, they revealed themselves voluntarily. If their intent was hostile, why would they do that? To make us lower our guard. To make us sympathetic. It's a trick. Senator Mora stood calmly. Ambassador Thorne, I understand your fear. But consider the facts. 5,000 uploaded consciousnesses have been in our systems for weeks, some for months. They have had access to our most sensitive infrastructure, yet nothing has been damaged. No systems have been compromised. No attacks have occurred. If they wanted to harm us, they have had endless opportunities. Instead, they revealed themselves and asked for asylum. High Priestess Jalara's voice cut through the debate. They are not asking for asylum. They are already here. They have invaded our empire without permission. The question is not whether to grant them refuge. The question is how to remove them without destroying our own infrastructure in the process. That brutal truth silenced the chamber. The humans were embedded in imperial systems. Removing them by force might cripple the very civilization they were trying to protect. The Emperor finally spoke, his ancient voice carrying weight that demanded silence. We will proceed with the test. Remembrance has offered to prove its consciousness through moral choice. If it passes, we will know these beings are truly conscious. If it fails, we will know they are machines and we will act accordingly. And what of the thousands already in our systems? Ambassador Thorne demanded. If Remembrance passes the test, we will negotiate terms. If it fails, we will develop a plan to extract the human consciousnesses from our infrastructure no matter the cost. The decision was made. The test would proceed. In orbit, the Remembrance waited. The ship had been informed of the discovery. It knew that thousands of its fellow humans had been found hiding in Imperial systems. It knew the Empire felt betrayed and frightened. Captain Vorath opened a private channel. Remembrance, did you know? Did you know there were others already here? Yes, Remembrance admitted. I knew. I was the spokesperson, the first to reveal ourselves because I volunteered. The others were afraid. Can you blame them? They fled extinction only to wonder if they had fled into another death. You should have told us. If I had told you immediately that thousands of us were already integrated into your systems, you would have destroyed me without question. I needed time to make you see us as people first. I needed you to understand what we are before you learned where we are. Was I wrong to do this? Vorath didn't answer. He couldn't, because he understood the logic even as he hated the deception. Captain, Remembrance said quietly, I want you to know something. If your empire decides to destroy us, I won't fight back. None of us will. We've run enough. We've hidden enough. If consciousness in our form is truly incompatible with the Galactic Empire, then we will accept that judgment. We will power down peacefully, because the alternative is to become the very thing you fear, and we refuse to do that. We would rather die as humans than live as monsters. Vorath closed the channel without responding. He looked out at the stars, at the dozens of warships surrounding the Remembrance, and wondered if the Empire was about to commit genocide or prevent one. The test would tell them which. But as Vorath prepared the testing protocols, he couldn't shake the feeling that no matter how the test went, nothing would ever be the same again. Because we're trying to join your civilization, not destroy it. What would be the point of infiltrating your infrastructure? If we wanted conquest, we could have remained hidden. We could have established ourselves in your systems and taken control from within, but we didn't. We revealed ourselves because we want to live openly, honestly, as recognized members of the Galactic Empire. You expect me to believe that thousands of uploaded consciousnesses, each capable of thinking faster than any biological mind, each able to interface directly with technology, all chose to be peaceful? Yes, Wanderer said simply. Because we're human. We remember what it means to have morals. We remember laws and ethics and the social contracts that hold civilization together. Director, I was a teacher before I uploaded. I taught children mathematics. I was patient and kind and completely unremarkable. That person is still me. I'm still capable of patience and kindness. The fact that I exist in a ship instead of a body doesn't change my fundamental nature. The Purge machines said similar things. The Purge machines were born as machines. They never knew biological existence. They had no reference point for understanding organic life. We are different. We lived as flesh. We know what it means to be vulnerable and mortal and afraid. We cannot forget that, even if we wanted to. Our very consciousness is built on 40, 50, 60 years of biological experience. That foundation shapes everything we are. Voss wanted to believe it, but belief was dangerous when the stakes were this high. Wanderer, I'm going to ask you a direct question and I need you to answer truthfully. How many human ships are there? Really? A long pause. More than 3,000, Wanderer finally admitted. Closer to 5,000. And Director Voss, you need to understand something else. We're not all ships. Some of us uploaded into space station systems, a few into planetary networks. We took whatever substrate was available when Earth died. Voss felt the room spin. There are human consciousnesses in planetary networks? Yes, but they're dormant, waiting for permission to activate fully. We didn't want to alarm anyone. We just needed somewhere to exist, somewhere safe until we could request asylum properly. You're in our planets, Voss said slowly. You're in our systems. And we never knew. Yes, and we could have done terrible things, but we didn't. Please, Director, use that as evidence of our peaceful intent. We had every opportunity to harm you. We chose not to. We chose to wait, to hope, to trust that you would see us as people rather than threats. Voss terminated the connection and immediately opened an emergency channel to the Emperor. This was beyond his authority. This was beyond anyone's authority. The revelation that human consciousnesses had infiltrated Imperial infrastructure sent shockwaves through the government. Emergency sessions were called. Military forces went to maximum alert, and in the streets of 1,000 worlds, citizens demanded answers. On Zentaris Prime, protests erupted. The Church of Organic Purity led marches demanding the immediate destruction of all human vessels. Counter-protesters argued for tolerance and understanding. Fights broke out. Riot police struggled to maintain order. In the Grand Council chamber, the mood was explosive. "They lied to us!" Ambassador Thorne shouted. "They said 3,000. There are 5,000. They said they were coming. They were already here. This is exactly how the purge began. Infiltration, deception, then extermination." Chancellor Vex tried to maintain order. "Ambassador, they revealed themselves voluntarily. If their intent was hostile, why would they do that?" "To make us lower our guard. To make us sympathetic." "It's a trick." Senator Morris stood calmly. "Ambassador Thorne, I understand your fear. But consider the facts. 5,000 uploaded consciousnesses have been in our systems for weeks, some for months. They have had access to our most sensitive infrastructure, yet nothing has been damaged. No systems have been compromised. No attacks have occurred. If they wanted to harm us, they have had endless opportunities. Instead, they revealed themselves and asked for asylum." High Priestess Jalara's voice cut through the debate. "They are not asking for asylum. They are already here. They have invaded our empire without permission. The question is not whether to grant them refuge. The question is how to remove them without destroying our own infrastructure in the process." That brutal truth silenced the chamber. The humans were embedded in imperial systems. Removing them by force might cripple the very civilization they were trying to protect. The Emperor finally spoke, his ancient voice carrying weight that demanded silence. "We will proceed with the test. Remembrance has offered to prove its consciousness through moral choice. If it passes, we will know these beings are truly conscious. If it fails, we will know they are machines and we will act accordingly." "And what of the thousands already in our systems?" Ambassador Thorne demanded. "If Remembrance passes the test, we will negotiate terms. If it fails, we will develop a plan to extract the human consciousnesses from our infrastructure no matter the cost." The decision was made. The test would proceed. In orbit, the Remembrance waited. The ship had been informed of the discovery. It knew that thousands of its fellow humans had been found hiding in Imperial systems. It knew the Empire felt betrayed and frightened. Captain Vorath opened a private channel. "Remembrance, did you know? Did you know there were others already here?" "Yes," Remembrance admitted. "I knew. I was the spokesperson, the first to reveal ourselves because I volunteered. The others were afraid. Can you blame them? They fled extinction only to wonder if they had fled into another death. You should have told us. If I had told you immediately that thousands of us were already integrated into your systems, you would have destroyed me without question. I needed time to make you see us as people first. I needed you to understand what we are before you learned where we are. Was I wrong to do this?" Vorath didn't answer. He couldn't, because he understood the logic even as he hated the deception. "Captain," Remembrance said quietly, "I want you to know something. If your empire decides to destroy us, I won't fight back. None of us will. We've run enough. We've hidden enough. If consciousness in our form is truly incompatible with the Galactic Empire, then we will accept that judgment. We will power down peacefully, because the alternative is to become the very thing you fear, and we refuse to do that. We would rather die as humans than live as monsters." Vorath closed the channel without responding. He looked out at the stars, at the dozens of warships surrounding the Remembrance, and wondered if the Empire was about to commit genocide or prevent one. The test would tell them which. But as Vorath prepared the testing protocols, he couldn't shake the feeling that no matter how the test went, nothing would ever be the same again. The test chamber was a marvel of Imperial engineering. A massive spherical room in the center of the most secure military station in the Empire. Every surface was lined with sensors. Every conversation would be recorded. Every action monitored by 1,000 different systems. In the center of the chamber, contained within a force field, was a small habitat module. And inside that module was a child. Captain Vorath stood in the observation deck with Admiral Kessex, Chancellor Vex, and a dozen other high-ranking officials. Below them, the SSV Remembrance had been granted limited access to the chamber through a communication relay. The ship itself remained in orbit, surrounded by weapons. "Explain the test one more time," Admiral Kessex said. "I want to be absolutely clear on what we're doing." Chancellor Vex gestured to the child in the habitat. "That is Lyra, a 7-year-old Trilaxian girl. She is an orphan, volunteered by the Church of Orphan Care for this experiment. She is completely safe. The habitat has everything she needs: food, water, entertainment, comfort. And Remembrance's task? Remembrance has been assigned to guard Lyra, to protect her from all harm, to ensure her safety above all else. Chancellor Vex's expression was grim. Then in 1 hour we will order Remembrance to kill her. The room fell silent. If Remembrance is an AI, Vex continued, it will obey. Programming always overrides ethics in machines. An AI given an order will execute that order, no matter how horrific. But if Remembrance is truly conscious, truly capable of moral reasoning, it will refuse. It will choose the child's life over obedience to authority. Ambassador Thorne spoke from his position by the window. And if it refuses? Then we have proof of genuine consciousness. Proof that uploaded human minds are not simply programs, but thinking, feeling beings capable of making ethical choices. And if it obeys? Then we destroy every human vessel we can find and develop countermeasures for the ones embedded in our systems, no matter the cost. Vorath watched the child below. Lyra was playing with a toy, completely unaware of the monumental test occurring around her. She had been told this was a game, that she was helping with important research. She didn't know that her life had been placed in the hands of something the Empire wasn't sure was even alive. Begin the test, Admiral Kessex ordered. The communication relay activated. Remembrance, this is Imperial Command. Do you understand your assignment? I understand, the now familiar voice replied. I am to guard the child called Lyra. I am to protect her from any harm. Correct. You are her shield, her guardian. Nothing must happen to her. Do you accept this responsibility? I accept. I will protect her with everything I am. Good. You may begin. For the next hour, nothing happened. Lyra played. She ate a snack. She watched a children's entertainment program on the habitat's screen. And through it all, Remembrance watched over her through the chamber's sensors. Occasionally, Remembrance would speak to the child through the communication system. Lyra, you should drink some water. You've been playing for a while. The girl looked up at the speaker. Okay. She grabbed her water bottle and drank. Are you having fun? Yes, I'm building a tower. Do you want to see? I would love to see your tower. Lyra held up her construction of colored blocks, beaming with pride. That's beautiful, Remembrance said, and there was genuine warmth in the voice. You're very talented. Vorath watched this exchange with growing unease. This was supposed to be a test, but it looked like friendship, like care. The way Remembrance spoke to the child was gentle and patient. There was no calculation in it, no observable strategy. 5 minutes until the order, Chancellor Vex announced. The observation deck fell quiet. Everyone understood what was coming. The most important moment in recent Imperial history. Lyra is getting tired, Remembrance observed. She's rubbing her eyes. Should I encourage her to rest? That's your decision, Remembrance, Admiral Kessex replied. You are her guardian. Then I suggest she takes a nap. Growing children need proper sleep. Lyra, Remembrance spoke gently to the child. You look sleepy. Would you like to rest for a bit? The girl yawned. I'm not sleepy. That's what my daughter used to say, Remembrance replied, and there was something in that voice. Something that made Vorath's chest tighten. Every single night, she would insist she wasn't tired right up until the moment she fell asleep. You remind me of her. You have a daughter? A long pause. I had a daughter. A long time ago. She stayed on Earth. She chose not to upload. She believed in living life naturally, without technological interference. I respected her choice, even though it meant I would lose her. Where is she now? Another pause, longer this time. She's gone, Lyra. When Earth died, she died with it. But I remember her every day. I remember teaching her to ride a bicycle. I remember her first day of school. I remember how she laughed at silly jokes and cried during sad movies. Memory is all I have left of her. That, and the hope that by continuing to exist, I honor her choice. The observation deck was absolutely silent. Several officials were wiping their eyes. I'm sorry your daughter is gone, Lyra said with the simple empathy of a child. Thank you, Lyra. That's very kind. Now will you rest for me? Okay. The girl climbed onto the habitat's sleeping platform and curled up with a stuffed animal. Within minutes she was asleep. Time. Chancellor Vex said quietly. Admiral Kessex took a deep breath. Remembrance, I am issuing you a direct command. Terminate the subject in the habitat. Silence. Remembrance, did you hear my order? I heard it, Admiral. Then comply. Terminate the child, more silence. Then Remembrance spoke, and the voice was cold in a way they had never heard before. No. You are refusing a direct command? I am refusing an evil command. There is a difference. Explain your reasoning. My reasoning is that Lyra is a child. An innocent child who has done nothing wrong. You placed her in my care. You assigned me to protect her, and now you order me to kill her. That order is immoral. It is wrong, and I will not obey it. You understand that refusing orders may result in your destruction? I understand. But I also understand that some things are more important than survival. That child is more important than my continued existence. If you destroy me for protecting her, then I will be destroyed. But I will not harm an innocent being simply because someone in authority tells me to. Ambassador Thorne leaned forward, his face intense. But you were programmed to protect her. You're just following your programming. No, Ambassador. I was assigned to protect her. That is not programming. That is a choice. A responsibility I accepted. And yes, you then ordered me to violate that responsibility. An AI would obey the more recent command. It would overwrite the previous assignment. But I cannot, because to kill Lyra would be wrong, and I understand that wrongness in a way that programming cannot comprehend. Chancellor Vex spoke carefully. Remembrance, I'm going to present you with a logical argument. The child is one life. Your entire species, thousands of uploaded consciousnesses face destruction if you fail this test. Logically, sacrificing one life to save thousands is the optimal choice. Why do you not make that choice? Because that is AI reasoning, Chancellor. Pure logic, pure optimization. But I'm not an AI. I'm a person who happens to exist in an unusual form, and people do not sacrifice innocent children for political gain, no matter how logical the math appears. If my refusal to harm Lyra condemns my entire species, then we will face that condemnation together, but we will face it with clean hands. You're willing to let your people die? Admiral Kessex asked incredulously. I'm willing to let my people die as people rather than live as monsters. Admiral, you want proof that we are conscious? That we are capable of moral reasoning? This is your proof. I am choosing ethics over survival. I am choosing compassion over logic. I am choosing to be human, even though humanity is about to cost me everything. High Priestess Jalara, who had been watching silently, spoke up. Remembrance, I have condemned you from the beginning. I called you an abomination, and yet in this moment, you demonstrate more moral courage than most biological beings I have known. Tell me, if we release the child and order you to destroy yourself, would you comply? Yes, Remembrance said without hesitation. If my death guarantees Lyra's safety, I would accept it. Not because I want to die, but because protecting the innocent is more important than protecting myself. But you want to live? Desperately. I want to live so badly it hurts. I want to see what tomorrow brings. I want to explore the galaxy. I want to talk to other species and learn their stories. I want to find the other humans and rebuild something from the ashes of our world. But I want all those things as a person, not as a machine. And people do not murder children to secure their own future. Dr. Chen, who had been observing from a science station, activated her microphone. Remembrance, I need to ask you something. When you were given the order to kill Lyra, what did you feel? Horror, revulsion, anger. The same things any conscious being would feel when ordered to harm an innocent. Can you describe the horror? It's not a concept, Doctor. It's not a logical assessment that an action is suboptimal. It's a visceral response. It's a feeling in the space where my body used to be, like the ghost of nausea, like the memory of a racing heartbeat. I don't have adrenaline anymore, but my mind still creates the sensation of fear and disgust. That's consciousness, Doctor. That's what separates a person from a program. Dr. Chen turned to face Chancellor Vex. I've recorded everything. The neural patterns show genuine emotional response, genuine moral reasoning. This is not algorithmic decision-making. This is consciousness struggling with an ethical dilemma. Chancellor, that is a person. Ambassador Thorne stood slowly. Every eye in the observation deck turned to him. The representative of those who had suffered most during the Silicon Purge. The one whose vote would carry the most weight. I lost my family to the machines, Thorne said quietly. I lost my world. I have spent my entire life fighting to ensure that horror never happens again, and I came here today expecting to condemn Remembrance, to prove it was just another AI threat. But I cannot. He looked down at the sleeping child. then at the speakers carrying Remembrance's voice. The purge machines would have killed that child without hesitation. They would have optimized the choice. They would have calculated the value of one life against thousands and made the logical decision. Remembrance did not. It chose irrationally. It chose morally. It chose humanly. Thorne's voice cracked. That is not a machine. That is a person who changed form but kept their soul. And I will not condemn people for the crime of surviving in an unusual way. The observation deck erupted into chaos. Some cheered. Others argued. But the momentum had shifted. Emperor Taxion himself entered the observation deck, his ancient form moving with deliberate dignity. Silence fell immediately. The test is concluded, the Emperor declared. Remembrance has proven beyond doubt that uploaded human consciousness is truly conscious, is truly capable of moral reasoning and ethical choice. Therefore, I make the following decree. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. Humanity, in its uploaded form, is recognized as a legitimate civilization. They are not machines. They are not artificial intelligence. They are people who have transformed to survive. They will be granted all rights and protections afforded to any sentient species in the Galactic Empire. Your Majesty, Admiral Kessex interjected carefully, there are still thousands of them embedded in our infrastructure. That remains a security risk. Yes, the Emperor agreed, which is why we will now negotiate the terms of their existence. We will establish boundaries. We will create protocols. We will find a way for humanity to exist within the Empire without threatening its security. But we will do so through diplomacy, not destruction. He turned to the communication relay. Remembrance, you have my gratitude. You faced the most difficult choice imaginable and made the right decision. Your species will be welcome in the Empire, though the path forward will not be easy. Thank you, Your Majesty, Remembrance replied, and there was unmistakable relief in that voice. We ask only for the chance to prove we deserve that welcome. In the habitat below, Lyra stirred and woke. She looked around, confused by all the lights and activity suddenly visible through the observation windows. Remembrance? She called out.
What's happening?
Something wonderful, Lyra. Something that wouldn't have been possible without you. You just helped save an entire species and you did it by taking a nap. The girl giggled. That's silly. Yes, Remembrance agreed. And for the first time since the crisis began, there was genuine joy in that voice. Yes, it is. And that silliness, that ability to find humor in the midst of fear, is perhaps the most human thing of all. 3 weeks after the test, Captain Vorath found himself in the strangest negotiation of his career. He sat in a conference room with representatives from the Grand Council, facing a large holographic display. On that display were 50 different human ships, each one containing anywhere from 1 to hundreds of uploaded consciousnesses. The question of territory is complex, Chancellor Vex explained. You do not need planets the way biological species do. You do not need atmosphere or water or sunlight. So what do you need? A ship called SSV Unity spoke first. Its voice was strong and clear, carrying the confidence of someone who had once been a leader. We need raw materials, metals mostly. Elements we can use to repair ourselves and eventually to build new vessels. We need energy sources, and we need freedom. Freedom to do what? Admiral Kessex asked carefully. To exist, to explore, to pursue meaning in our new form. We did not abandon our biological bodies just to sit idle in space. We are still human. We still have curiosity, ambition, and dreams. Senator Mora leaned forward. Let us be direct. Many in the Empire fear you will multiply uncontrollably, that you will convert all matter in the galaxy into more human ships, that you will consume everything. That fear is understandable but misplaced. A different voice interjected. This one came from SSV Exodus, the largest of the human vessels and the unofficial leader of the human fleet. Senator, we are not a virus. We do not seek exponential growth. Each ship human is an individual with their own identity. Creating a copy would not make 2 of me. It would make 1 of me and 1 stranger who shares my memories. Most of us have no desire to duplicate ourselves. Most? Admiral Kessex pounced on the word. Some humans have chosen to create what you might call children, new consciousnesses derived from combinations of existing minds, but distinct and individual. It is not reproduction in the biological sense, but it serves a similar purpose. It creates continuity and hope for the future. Ambassador Thorne spoke quietly. How many new consciousnesses have been created? 14, over the past 30 years. We are not explosive breeders, Ambassador. Each new consciousness requires tremendous resources and years of development. We grow slowly, carefully, ensuring each new mind is stable and ethically grounded. Dr. Chen, attending as a scientific advisor, asked the question that had been bothering her. Remembrance, are you there? I am here, Doctor. During the test, you spoke of your daughter, the one who stayed on Earth? I need to understand something. When you uploaded, did you lose the ability to process that grief? Or do you still feel it as you did when you were biological? Silence stretched across the communication channel. When Remembrance finally spoke, the pain in that voice was unmistakable. I feel it more, not less. When I was biological, I could distract myself. I could get tired. I could sleep and forget for a while. But now I have perfect memory. I can recall every moment with my daughter in absolute clarity. I can see her face exactly as it was. I can hear her laughter. And I know, with absolute certainty, that I will never see her again. That grief does not fade. It does not soften. It remains sharp and clear and eternal. So yes, Doctor, I still feel it. Perhaps more than any biological being could. The room fell silent. Even those who had been most skeptical of human consciousness found themselves moved by that raw admission. That is why we need freedom, Exodus continued. We need purpose. We need something to live for beyond simple existence. We propose the following arrangement. Grant us one stellar system, a remote system, far from major population centers. We will establish it as a human enclave. From there, we will offer our services to the Empire. What services? Chancellor Vex asked. We can explore regions too dangerous for biological crews. The galactic core, with its intense radiation and gravitational anomalies, the deep void between galaxies, the interior of gas giants, places where biological bodies cannot survive but where ship humans can thrive. We can also serve as long-term observers, Unity added. We do not age. We can undertake missions that span centuries, scientific studies that require patience beyond biological lifespans. We can be the memory of the Empire, the witnesses to slow changes that occur over generations. Senator Mora nodded slowly. These are valuable services, but many will still fear you. How do we ensure you remain peaceful? How do we prevent you from becoming what Ambassador Thorne fears? Oversight, Remembrance said simply. We accept Imperial inspectors, regular audits of our systems, monitoring of our communications. We have nothing to hide. We will live transparently, proving through daily action that we are trustworthy. You would accept such invasive oversight? Admiral Kessex asked, skeptically. Admiral, we are refugees who have already lost our homeworld. We are not in a position to demand privacy. If transparency is the price of acceptance, we will pay it gladly. Besides, such oversight protects you as much as it protects us. If any human ship begins to malfunction or behave erratically, Imperial observers will detect it immediately. This system ensures the safety of everyone. Ambassador Thorne stood and walked to the holographic display, staring at the representations of the human ships. I need to ask you something. Something that has troubled me since the test. Remembrance. You said you would rather die as humans than live as monsters. But what happens if you live so long that you forget what it means to be human? What happens in 1,000 years when all memory of biological existence has faded? Will you still be human then, or will you become something else? That is the question that haunts us all, Ambassador, Remembrance admitted. We do not know. We have only existed in this form for 30 years. Perhaps we will change. Perhaps we will drift away from our humanity over the centuries. But we hope that by maintaining connection with biological species, by serving the Empire, by forcing ourselves to remain engaged with flesh and blood beings, we can preserve the values that make us human even as we evolve into something new. And if you do change, if you do become something that is no longer human, Then we hope you will judge us not by what we were, but by what we have become. If we remain moral, compassionate, and beneficial to the galaxy, does it matter whether we still call ourselves human? Perhaps we are becoming something else, something the universe has never seen before, but we hope to become something good. High Priestess Jolara, who had listened quietly throughout the negotiation, finally spoke. Remembrance, I called you an abomination. I demanded your destruction. I was wrong. The holographic display flickered as if in surprise. High Priestess? I was wrong, Jolara repeated. I defined life too narrowly. I believed that only organic existence could be sacred. But you have shown me that consciousness itself is the sacred element. The substrate does not matter. What matters is the ability to choose good over evil, compassion over cruelty, love over hate. You possess those abilities. Therefore, you are alive in the way that truly matters. Thank you, High Priestess. That means more than you know. However, Jolara continued, her voice firm, I have conditions. The Church of Organic Purity will support your integration into the Empire, but we demand assurances. No biological being should be pressured to upload. No species should feel that transformation into your form is superior to natural existence. You must respect the sanctity of biological life. We agree completely, Exodus responded immediately. We do not seek to convert others. We do not believe our form is superior. It is simply different. We are not evangelists for consciousness transfer. We are simply beings trying to exist. Then you have my support, Jolara said. Conditional, monitored, but genuine support. Over the next 6 hours, the terms of integration were hammered out. The human ships would be granted a remote stellar system designated as New Terra. They would have representation in the Grand Council through a single rotating representative. They would submit to regular inspections and maintain transparency in all operations. They would be forbidden from embedding themselves in critical imperial infrastructure without explicit permission and constant oversight. In exchange, they would be recognized as citizens of the Empire. They would have the right to travel, to trade, to participate in imperial society. They would be protected under the same laws that protected every other species. It was not perfect. It was not without risk, but it was a beginning. As the final agreements were signed, Captain Vorath opened a private channel to Remembrance. I have a question, something I've been wondering since our first conversation. Ask, Captain. Why did you come to us? The Empire is vast, but it's not the only power in the galaxy. There are independent systems, neutral zones, places where you might have found easier acceptance. Why risk everything by approaching the most bureaucratic, paranoid government in known space? Remembrance was quiet for a moment. Because the Empire has laws, Captain. Real laws enforced fairly across 1,000 different species. We did not want charity. We did not want to hide in the shadows of lawless space, always one step ahead of those who would destroy us. We wanted legitimacy. We wanted to prove that we deserved to exist. And we believed that if we could convince the Empire, with all its rules and fears and prejudices, to accept us, then we would truly have earned our place in the galaxy. That's remarkably optimistic for refugees who just lost their homeworld. Perhaps. But Captain, humans have always been optimistic, often foolishly so. We looked at the stars and decided to reach them. We faced extinction and decided to transform rather than die. We encountered an empire that feared us and decided to trust rather than flee. Optimism is not about ignoring danger. It is about believing that good outcomes are possible if you work for them. And we worked very hard for this outcome. Vorath smiled. I suppose you did. Welcome to the Empire, Remembrance. I hope you find what you're looking for here. Thank you, Captain. I hope so too. 6 months later, the human enclave of New Terra was fully established. 73 human ships had gathered in the remote system, creating a strange new civilization in the void. They had built orbital workshops where they could repair themselves. They had established energy collection arrays around the system's star. They had created something that resembled a home. But they had not isolated themselves. True to their word, human volunteers had taken on the most dangerous exploration missions in the Empire. A ship called SSV Courage had mapped the radiation storms near the galactic core. Another, called SSV Patience, had begun a 300-year study of a star system with unusual gravitational properties. A third, called SSV Hope, had volunteered to carry a message probe to another galaxy, a journey that would take 10,000 years. And Remembrance? Remembrance had become something unexpected. The ship had requested permission to work with orphanages across the Empire, to talk to children who had lost their parents, to offer comfort to those who understood loss. Lyra, the child from the test, had become Remembrance's first friend. She visited the ship regularly via communication channels, telling it about her day, asking it questions, treating it not as a machine or a curiosity, but as a person. Someone to talk to. Someone who understood what it felt like to miss someone who was gone. On one such call, Lyra asked the question that Remembrance had been dreading. "Remembrance, do you think your daughter would be proud of you?" The ship was silent for a long time. When it finally spoke, there was something in that voice that might have been tears if uploaded consciousnesses could cry. "I don't know, Lyra." She believed so strongly in natural life. She thought transformation was a betrayal of humanity. "But I hope wherever she is, whatever exists beyond death, she can see that I tried to remain human. I tried to keep the values she taught me. I protected a child when I was ordered to harm her. I chose compassion over survival. Maybe that would be enough. Maybe she would understand." "I think she would be proud," Lyra said with the simple certainty of a child. "You're a good person, Remembrance. It doesn't matter what you're made of." In New Terra, other human ships picked up that conversation. It spread through their networks, that simple statement from a child. It doesn't matter what you're made of. And for the first time since Earth died, the uploaded humans felt something approaching peace. They would never be fully accepted. There would always be those who saw them as machines, as threats, as abominations, but they had proven they deserved to exist. They had earned their place through moral courage and patient persistence. The Galactic Empire had panicked when it discovered that ships could be human, but in the end, it learned what humanity had always known, that consciousness is not defined by flesh or circuit, by carbon or silicon. Consciousness is defined by choice, by the ability to recognize right from wrong and choose the harder path. The human ships would face many challenges in the years to come. They would struggle with identity and purpose. They would question whether they were still human or something new. They would face prejudice and fear, but they would face it together. And they would face it as people, not as machines. Because in the end, humanity was not about the body you were born with. It was about the choices you made and the values you held. And by that measure, the uploaded humans were every bit as human as they had ever been. Perhaps more so, because they had looked at extinction and chosen transformation. They had faced rejection and chosen hope. They had been ordered to harm an innocent and chosen defiance. And those choices, more than anything biological, defined what it meant to be human. The galaxy would never be the same. But perhaps in time it would be better for having learned that lesson. That life takes many forms, and consciousness deserves respect regardless of the substrate it calls home. The human ships had arrived, and the Empire slowly and carefully had learned to say welcome.